So one other document which we provide to you is the OpenCRVS Data Security Framework document. And this is a long document which gives you the context of what are the implications from a security perspective of using a digital civil registration system. And obviously, OpenCRVS is just a technical solution which can store and process personally identifiable information, so PII for citizens, and include copies of official documentation, which includes unique identifiers. So this is really valuable citizen data, which is a target for criminal activity. And where technically possible, OpenCRVS provides solutions to mitigate against common threats, but OpenCRVS is used within the context of human day-to-day work and interaction with the outside world. And so this is a world where we can expect criminals to continually adapt and attempt to gain access to this data. And the constantly evolving landscape of cybersecurity includes all sorts of methods that are outside the scope of OpenCRVS, such as social engineering, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and criminals may adopt these techniques to exploit staff who use OpenCRVS and attack the servers and networks on which it's installed. So reacting to these threats often falls outside the scope of what a technical system is capable of independently defending against. Therefore, it's really important that the government you're working for adopts data security policies and procedures. And again, this must be present in your organization as an implementing vendor. So the purpose of this document is to provide you with an understanding of these risks, an understanding of what technical steps are taken in OpenCRVS to mitigate against these risks and why they shouldn't be amended so much, such as, for example, two-factor authentication, and a guidance framework for the development of context-specific data security policies and procedures that should be designed and introduced by government that's chosen to install OpenCRVS. So we're providing guidance. We're not saying this is exactly what you should do. We're not saying that this is exhaustive. We're just saying these are things you need to consider. So as project managers and all staff who are involved in either a temporary or continual basis in the design and implementation, the monitoring and maintenance and day-to-day usage are exposed to this kind of data. So they need to be regularly trained, and they need to be aware of the different threats that are out there. So the document explains, why is security important? What could be the potential penalties for not adhering to regulations in your country. It talks about why digitization is really great, but also why digitization has inherent dangers and what you need to do. What are the risks? So we talk about some of the different threat vectors that are out there, different ways in which criminals will try to socially engineer your staff, or perhaps simply employ malicious software or emails in order to get hold of information which can help them access the system. So it's very important that you train your staff on these sorts of threats. And so we try to talk about that. We talk about why password length and password complexity is really important. It's very important that your staff use strong passwords and that they store any passwords or secrets in a password manager. So we've talked about that throughout the configuration of servers and in the ongoing costs video. We've talked about what password managers are, and they should definitely be utilized. You've set up multi-factor authentication when you're setting up an SMTP service when you're logging in. So it's very important that devices are associated with accounts in order to make them more secure. That applies also to SSH access. And we talk about all the sorts of different procedures that you might want to put into place. And there are a number of links in the appendix here where you can read in much more detail about risks and procedures and policies which you might want to adopt from institutions that are in your geographical area, in your contextually similar to you. We provide guidance to governments about the sorts of behaviours that they should encourage or prohibit, standards that they should adopt, such as ISO 27001, and we talk about specific guidance and actions that you should be doing when installing OpenCRVS throughout those phases of the project, design and implementation, making sure that there's no documents that are left behind that have any PII for staff members, that your code is hosted in a private repository and that only authorized staff are allowed to access that repository, that you have the monitoring and maintenance checklists distributed to the people in charge of monitoring and maintenance, and that you're keeping that up to date, and that there's an owner of these documents, that you're using a VPN. Now, we have provided a WireGuard VPN as an example VPN, but our WireGuard VPN is not to be used at scale. You'll find it very clunky if you're trying to create thousands of staff member VPN clients through the WireGuard UI. It's just there as something to have for a pilot or a small scale deployment, but we're not suggesting that you should use our WireGuard VPN at scale. You can check that people have a password manager and that National System Administrator users specifically have used them, because the National System Administrator account is a really, really critical account. With that account, you could create every possible staff member in OpenCRVS, which can perform every possible action. So this is why the National System Administrator user is critical to be very, very secure. And we mentioned about penetration testing, that, you know, in no way do we say that OpenCRVS is entirely bug-free, that it's entirely going to be forever protected against a cyber attack. Anything can happen. It's very important that you have your installation regularly penetration tested yourself, and don't just rely on the penetration testing that we do in the core team. Anything can get missed by any tester at any time. And we talk about what we point you to common procedures that you can follow if in the worst case scenario there is a data breach, and how to employ the right sort of people to perform forensic analysis, and try and limit your risk by knowing about the risk and planning for the worst case. So stay informed about these threats. These are the links I was talking about. There's lots of links here you can review and improve your data security posture. So that's why we provide this document. It's very important that you share it with the stakeholders in the country, and they need to be aware of the risks, and they need to plan to implement these policies and procedures. That's why we provide this document. So hopefully it's helpful.